Well, hello back, folks. Welcome to another Web Dev Wednesday weekly video. This video is going to be a little different than the other ones. In this one, we will be seeing at a video that another YouTuber made who's called as Harry Wolff. The name of the channel is Harry Wolff. He's a great YouTuber. I've been following him since the last few weeks, and whatever he teaches regarding web development is simply awesome. But he recently created a video which is titled as Front End Development in 2021, a complete guide. Now, although he did cover a lot of things, a lot of great things that would really benefit a lot of people. He covered all the UI libraries that are major, like React, Vue, Red, Angular, then all the CSS or styling kind of things that you can use in your day-to-day programming life, like Less, BEM, CSS modules, CSS and JS, Tailwind. He did not cover Bootstrap, but that's fine. It's just another similar library that you can use that to make your life easier. Then routing, then state management, testing libraries, productivity tools, transpilation, and extra and beyond. So he did cover a lot of great tools, a lot of great things that will help you definitely. However, I respectfully disagree with him. And I'll tell you why. Don't worry about that. Let's see the description. Let's see the first line. The state of front-end development in 2021. All the libraries and technologies you need to know to become a front-end expert. I disagree with that, right? Why I disagree? Because if you are a new developer or you are recently going to learn web development, are you planning to learn it or anything like that, the problem with that is this will make you so overwhelmed that you will probably never start. And this is the problem that many developers face. When you look at a job posting, when you look at an event that is happening, and you hear about hundreds of different tools, and you ask yourself, I don't even know HTML. I don't even know CSS. I was planning to learn JavaScript by the end of this year. And now they are saying there's React, Vue, Red, Angular, Less, CSS modules, CSS and JSS, Tailwind, VRouter, React Router, Redux, NGRX, mobiles, and GraphQL, Relay, REST API, Jest, Mocha, testing libraries, different testing libraries, Prettier, ESLint, TypeScript, Babel, NPM, Yarn, Webpack. I mean, isn't it overwhelming? Doesn't that sound ridiculous if you don't know that all of these things are not really required for you to become a front-end developer? All I'm saying is, I'm sure that Harry spent a lot of time making this video, researching about all these awesome frameworks, libraries, and tools. But if you're a new developer, I just recommend you to take it slow. I just want you to go step by step. I just want you to not get overwhelmed, just to learn one thing. Learn one thing at a time, and you will definitely become a good developer. If your goal is to get a job, you don't need to learn all of these. If your goal is to start your own company, well, you don't need that as well. If your goal is to start a YouTube channel and start teaching others, well, I'm doing that. I'm sure Harry is doing that. And I'm sure even Harry might not be expert in all of these things. I know he is good with a lot of things, but all of these libraries, being an expert in them, if he is, I mean, great respect to him, right? But I don't think, yeah, exactly. As Saurabh is saying in the comments, by looking at that list, I would never even start coding. It is such a non-exhaustive list. So exactly, that's my point. I don't want people to get scared. I want people to see Harry's video, hit the like button on this video, comment it down, and ask what one thing should I learn? If I want to get a job by the end of this year, what's the one thing I need to learn? And let me break it down for you. So out of all these things that are mentioned in this video, we will actually watch it together, and then I will tell you what you need, the minimum viable option. We will see the MVO, the minimum viable option for you to become a good developer, to start making your own websites, to create your own portfolio, first of all, to create some hobby projects, and then hopefully to get a job. Let's have a look.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Harry Wolff, and I talk about code all the time here. Today's video is a very exciting one. I intend to cover the entire front-end landscape in 2021 in under 20 minutes. I have 39 separate things to discuss, and to keep that under 20 minutes long, I have no more than 30 seconds per topic. So I'm not going to have as much of a preamble here, except to say that if you do enjoy this video when you are done watching it and you are not exhausted by it, please do become a subscriber and tell your friends about it to hopefully spread the word of this video.
Yes, that is very important. I have opened this video in incognito mode, so I'm not really logged in. I have already subscribed to this channel months ago. You need to go and subscribe to this channel. If you're not already subscribed, you need to hit the like button. Do the same with our channel. It will help us be motivated, and it will help us make more content for you so that you can benefit in the end. Let's go ahead.
Without any further ado, let's begin the marathon. First things first, we have UI libraries. The problem they're trying to solve is how do you get your browser to show the UI for your application in an efficient and productive manner. The first UI library to talk about is React, the most popular React library, the most popular UI library around right now. It looks like this. The big innovation with React was embedding the template or what your UI looks like inside your functionality, which is your JavaScript file, with this thing called JSX. It goes through a compilation process that just compiles down to function call.
Exactly. So as I already told you that React made it really easy to write everything in the same file. But personally, I don't really like that. And that is one of the reasons I'm more inclined towards using and learning Angular, because I really like separation of concern. The reason we started with having a different HTML file, a different CSS file, and a different JavaScript file was all to separate the concerns, to keep HTML at one place, CSS at one, and JavaScript at one. So I like React. I have used React in multiple projects, but this is something I don't really enjoy much or use at all, because that's why I prefer Angular, to have different files and everything. But that's really a personal preference. No problem if you want to learn React, Angular, or Vue. They're all great.
Calls, but it means that you can have both your template, how your UI looks, alongside with your functionality. That was the big thing with React. They also have Vue.js, which is very popular as well. It's very easy to add to existing applications. It's built that way. The big innovation with Vue.js is that they have these things called single file components, where it encapsulates all parts of a component in one file called .vue, where you have the template here, the functionality in the script tag, and then styles inline as well. It'll actually scope those styles to this component so that it actually doesn't bleed out to other places, but it means that you can then use the hello component anywhere you want. You have Svelte, which is similar to Vue, where all functionality is encapsulated in one .svelte file.
Exactly. Now, as you saw, they're really following kind of the same pattern. They're trying to make everything look easy, to show everything in one file. But again, as I said, this is not my preference. This is not my style of coding. Obviously, these libraries are great. I mean, I have used them in so many projects. I can't even count to that number. But I'm just saying it's a personal preference. And the thing with Vue is, Vue has really taken the best of both worlds. Vue has taken some things that from Angular and some things that are great with React. So Vue is a great framework. It is very lightweight. It's easy to understand. And with Angular and React, the learning curve is a little steeper, and Angular has the highest learning curve, I would say. But in the end, I would say any one of these is great.
The big difference between Svelte and Vue is that Svelte has zero runtime. You compile the Svelte application down, and what's output is code that has all functionality for updating things discretely in a functional way, embedded in the actual compiled component. And you have Angular, which is geared very strongly towards the enterprise nowadays, where it very focuses on Typescript support, using annotations. It reminds me of Java and OO, but it has essentially the entire kitchen sink built in. If you need to have requests, if you need to do state management, everything's built into Angular. So you don't have to really worry about anything outside of that. Let's talk about CSS styling.
Exactly, and that's one of the things I love about Angular. Not just that we have different files, that's really a personal preference, but Angular really has something over others, because everything you might need in a web development application and front-end application is already involved. For example, if you want internationalization, well, Angular has their own support. They're good and bad for it, but they have their own support for that. They have great frameworks for handling observables to handle asynchronous code. They have RxJS built in. They have a state management system, NGRX, that you can add to your application and use it. So it is a very powerful library, and that's why Harry mentioned that large corporations and big companies are usually using Angular for the same reason.
Vanilla CSS is still widely used. There's also these things called less and Sass. These are extensions to CSS.
Well, before we dive into CSS, let me tell you about the front-end frameworks, the UI libraries that Harry mentioned. So Harry mentioned React, Vue.js, Sulet, and Angular. I would say learn any one, right? You don't need to know all of them. And if you're confused, well, I need to ask you, what's your end goal? If your goal is to learn a cool new technology, learn any one framework. Make it your target for the next 3 months that you will learn one framework and create at least 2 projects and host them on GitHub or any other free resource that you can showcase to different employers if your goal is to get a job. Yeah, if your goal is to get a job, you need to be smart about it. You need to go to LinkedIn. You need to write front-end developer or just web developer on LinkedIn and have your province or city selected, filtered out. And then in the end, whatever framework has the highest number of jobs in your area, just learn it, devour it, be an expert in it, and don't even think about others. And the reason is, it's not because you know others you are a better developer. If you can create a website that has lazy loading, that has great data handling, that has a state management system, and that is efficient and effective, that's all you need to know. Your customers, your boss, your clients, they won't care about what framework and what language are you using. So learn any one of them. If your goal is to find a job, look for the highest number of jobs according to framework in your city. And that is my advice to you. Don't go for all of them. If you try to learn all of them, you will spend years before applying to your first job. And I don't want you to waste that time. And if you want to learn these things, well, you can go to Harry's channel. On our channel, actually, we are starting an Angular course live stream. So more on that later. It's coming on our channel soon. Every Sunday, we are going to be live and you will get a chance to learn with us live on YouTube, but we'll cover that some other time.
That adds some functionality that is not currently present in CSS. That's changing over time. But two of the big ones is variables. Both Less and Sass support that. The big difference between them is that Less uses the @ for variables and Sass uses the $sign. They both also support nesting, where you can nest styles inside of one another, and then compile down and be unnested in valid CSS, and a host of other functionalities that makes it easier to be more productive writing your styles. There's also BEM, which is a convention for writing your styles such that they don't have any leakage on top of other styles, where you have block element modifier. So when you write your styles, you follow this convention of button state success, so that it is very clear how styles are to be applied to HTML, and there's no global cascade of these styles externally. There's also this.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great approach to write your styles. You will see when you create a new application, when you have a large application, if you don't follow a good structure, your CSS can easily get messed up, and you will lose what style has to be actually applied and how to edit the CSS file or less file or any other style file if you have a big application especially.
Also, this newer thing called CSS modules, which uses a compilation step to actually work.
Yes, CSS modules, I've heard about it. I've never really used it myself. I have heard about it. I will probably try it sometime, but yeah, it's just another thing to learn, right? Now, we as developers should always be learning, right? And let's just go through all of those that he mentioned. He mentioned CSS, Less and Sass, BEM, CSS modules. He will mention afterwards CSS in JavaScript and Tailwind. I think all of these are great. My personal advice to you, to new developers, is don't care about all of these things. Just learn CSS. The first thing you need to do is you need to have your basics clear. Once you know CSS, once you know how to create a grid, create a layout, create a structure in your website, once you are done with that, that is probably enough. that is probably enough for you to create endless websites, to create thousands of websites for yourself, to create hundreds of pages for a client if you are an entrepreneur or if you are a freelancer, and to get one job in your field, in your city. That is definitely more than enough. And that is my advice to you. Once you master CSS, you will then see why less and why SAS are used, why they are more helpful, how can they make your life easier, what is BEM kind of a style of writing, what is Tailwind and Bootstrap. And also, just to point it out, Tailwind and Bootstrap are really great. And I would recommend you to learn that as well from the beginning. Because what Tailwind and Bootstrap will basically do is they will make your life easier. For example, if you have to center some things, you will probably have to write the center code in CSS hundreds of times. But if you're using Tailwind or Bootstrap, you can just use their CSS classes to make your life easier. For example, you can use text center if you're using Bootstrap. So these things should make your life easier. My understanding is, and my belief is, that when we write code or when we create a product, a website, anything, that should make the life of other people who use our website easier, right? And we as developers don't need to overcomplicate our lives. We need to make our lives easier. And if using a framework like Tailwind or Bootstrap can make our life easier, well, why not? Why waste more time in writing how to color the button red yourself if it's already made? Why waste time to create an accordion? Why waste time to create a modal, a pop-up? Why waste time creating a sidebar when all of these things are already there for you? Bootstrap 5 was recently released and we covered that on this channel. So if you want, go to the past videos of our channel, the Immigrant Programmers, and you will see all the new features, the cool features that came out with Bootstrap 5, and you will thank me later. Let's go to routing. Now in routing, he will mention about React Router and Vue Router. Now I won't really play that because that really depends on what kind of framework and what kind of library you use for the front end. Then there is state management. Again, I would say there are different kind of state management tools. I will not recommend anyone to you if you are just starting out. And the reason for that is there are many different ways, but I would say the first thing you should be able to do is to handle APIs, to handle data in your website, to be able to communicate with the backend, right? To be able to generate authentication, to be able to generate cookies and refresh tokens, save them in the local storage so that you can keep the session of a user without asking him or her to log in again and again. Once you master those things, then yes, definitely learn one of the state management tools. Redux is one of the most common one. If you're using Angular, you might look into NGRX, but you don't always need them. Now let's go to the testing libraries. This is really interesting.
Source then relate this. Testing libraries, the unsung heroes of every highly functioning application. We have Jest, which is a very popular framework nowadays that has very typical assertions for things. The big advantage of
Harry nailed it. They're really the unsung heroes of each and every application that exists in this world.
Jest is the developer experience when you actually use the Jest CLI. You have this wonderful UI presented to you in the command line where you can see what tests are passing, which are running. You also have built-in code coverage, easy mocking. Jest pretty much includes everything that you may need for running UI tests, front-end tests built in a very easy-to-use manner that works. The sums of the parts are greater than the whole. It's a lovely, lovely experience. We also have Mocha, which is the original JavaScript test runner, which is both a test runner with also assertions in there as well, which is also still widely used. And then for actually testing your UI libraries, one of the big new popular libraries is called the Testing Library Suite of.
Yes. Before we go into testing actually the front end, testing the actual UI, I need to just reflect on the testing libraries he already mentioned. So we have Jest and Mocha, and these two are really my favorite ones. I use Mocha all the time in my backend, like Node.js, and in my other projects as well. And Mocha is really awesome. You can use Mocha along with Chai to really have better mockups and to really assert things better. And then there are mockup libraries. For example, if you're actually interacting to a database, you don't really need to connect to a database and really enter or really alter the data or delete something. You can actually create mocks, but that is a little more advanced concept. But yes, testing is important. testing is usually overlooked. Usually, you might think that if you just create a website that looks great, you will get hired. Well, that's not the case. And it's not only about getting hired. You should aim to become a better developer. In the end, your aim is to become a better developer every single day. And testing will help you do that. And testing in the starting, in the beginning, it can have a small learning curve. And I would also accept that testing might look like a time waste, especially if you are new, but it will pay you much late. It will pay you n number of times. It will pay you 10 folds once you write your test, and you have to pay. I mean, you will either pay with your time by writing these libraries, or you will pay later by your clients calling you and saying, well, nothing really works on your website. Why is that? And the reason is that once you change something, once you have established code, once you have hundreds of pages running, then the problem becomes, what should I really do? If you change one thing, if you change one component, one small piece of your code, you now need to retest your whole website. And that is just a lot of waste of time, right? You should not do that. If you just run the unit test again, you will see if everything is passing or failing. And if anything fails, you will know before going to the production that something is wrong with the website. So just saying, just a small note, that testing libraries are awesome. My personal experience with UI testing, for example, testing a button, if user clicks on a button, if he sees a loading spinner and things like that, that I think might be an overkill, especially if you are making a new website. Now, I have nothing against them. I think they're awesome and they are necessary evils. But if you're just beginning, don't worry about that. At least that's my opinion. Let's go through the developer productivity tools that Harry mentions. Prettier, great. ESLint, great. Do you need to learn them? No. Does knowing what they are help you? Well, yes. Prettier is great because it will really format your code. I will show you. I'll show you how Harry will represent about Prettier, but it really helps you in formatting your code. And ESLint will help you not make mistakes. So let's just go through them.
This is that section. First is Prettier, which is one of my most favorite libraries in a long time. If you've used Go
Same here.
in the past, this is similar to Go format, where given any weirdly formatted source file, it'll output the source file in a consistently formatted way. And it is wonderful because it removes a whole host of PR comments from.
Just have a look. Just have a look. On the left, you have a piece of code that just takes 20 lines, right? But looks so complicated to understand and it is so messed up. On the right, you will see the final version that Prettier will give you. And I personally love when my code is formatted, when everything is aligned. And Prettier helps me a lot with that. And kudos to Harry for mentioning that.
From asking people to make certain spacing requirements or semicolon usages, it removes all those comments and makes all styles consistent across the entire code base, which means that it's both easier to read and understand because all the code looks the same. It is absolutely wonderful. We also have ESLint, which is a linter, which makes suggestions on how you can improve your code. It's saying that you're using foo as assigned to value but never used. If you use foo, then that ESLint warning goes away. A lot of
Exactly. So things like ESLint, TSLint, etc., they will enforce you to write good code. They will enforce you to not write duplicates. They will enforce you to delete unused variables. They will enforce you to remove console log statements, just like this one. They will enforce you to remove debuggers before you go into production. And these things really help you a lot.
Rich rules that you can use to customize for your own application's needs. And then you have Storybook, which is a wonderful way of developing your isolated UI components, where you can make a Storybook file that contains these 3 lines of code that when you run Storybook, you get this entire UI for free that you can easily develop and iterate on these components in isolation in a wonderful way. You can use it as a
I have not personally used Storybook. I have heard good things about that. I've never heard any bad things about Storybook. I know that it might be not as performant as writing your own code, or it might take some time before you can actually master it. But I've heard good things about it, and I can't really comment more on it.
A great, easy way to get started with a design system by using Storybook. It's awesome. Transpilation. We have Typescript, one of the
Transpilation. TypeScript, for those who don't know, we have a whole series on TypeScript on this channel. And TypeScript, in my opinion, is the future of web dev. It will be used in backend, it will be used in the front end. TypeScript will take over JavaScript. And to be honest, TypeScript is just JavaScript with some strict typing. And that's it. For example, if you're new to web dev, you might look into TypeScript after learning a little of JavaScript. You don't need to master JavaScript before you get into TypeScript, because what TypeScript will essentially do is it will make your life easier. And if you start learning TypeScript from the beginning, well, it will really help you, because now you won't think that you have to make a big change. You will think that TypeScript has to be learned from the very beginning, and it's easier to learn more things when you're just starting out, like TypeScript, rather than learning it when you are using JavaScript for 10 years and then suddenly you are asked to code in a different way. So I hope that wasn't too confusing, but my opinion is to start learning TypeScript as soon as you can. Now, after that, these are more advanced topics and I won't really go into them. If you are a good web developer, if you have been developing websites with Angular, React, Vue, or any other framework, yes, you can definitely go through them and have a look about what Harry has to say. But for new developers or for aspiring developers, for people who want to get into this industry, let me give you point blank the things you need to learn and the things you need to ignore. You need to master HTML and CSS. There's no other way. HTML and CSS are the most basic things for web dev. But again, you don't need to be a master. Don't learn HTML, CSS for 1 year, because you will always find something that you don't know. You will always find something that is new and cool in web dev. You will always find people who are better than you, and that's okay. Just because someone speaks better English than I do, I don't stop speaking English, right? I still do it. I have the YouTube channel in English. It's not even my first language. So you need to do the same thing. Just because someone is better than HTML, CSS from you, there are also languages. That's why I made the comparison. Just because someone else is better, you should not stop coding. Just because there are so many things to learn, you should not stop coding. You should definitely get into coding. HTML and CSS should not take you more than a month if you're already a programmer, if you're doing a bachelor's or diploma or any other course. If you're not a programmer, if you're completely new into it, maybe it will take a couple of months, maybe 3 months. But if you learn that, then I would ask you to jump into JavaScript. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript. After JavaScript, I would say have a look at TypeScript. It might really help you a lot. But don't worry if you don't understand a lot of TypeScript, right? If you're from Java or any strict language background, TypeScript would be really awesome for you. If not, just stick with JavaScript and then start learning a framework. Just learn any one framework that you want. Don't think about learning everything. Just start one framework. Once you do that, you can start applying to jobs. Don't wait to learn a backend. Don't wait to learn Node.js. Don't wait to master 50 different libraries or frameworks. Once you can make a website that can simply store things in a cart, like a shopping website, like a hobby project, or maybe you can use some API to get something to show the fetch data on your website. Once you can do that, start applying to jobs left and right. Everything mentioned here, you will learn that someday, but you might not learn that on your own. You will learn that when you're working for someone or when you're running your own company. If you start your own company, you will have to learn hundreds of things. If you go to a job, you might have to start learning hundreds of things, because then you need to know GitHub, right? GitHub is one of the most important things that any developer should know, not just web developers, everyone. So you need to look into those things, but start applying to jobs as soon as you can. Don't wait to master everything. Don't get worried about the imposter syndrome. I see many developers facing that. Don't get overwhelmed by looking at videos or articles like this one who mention 50 different things, and you might think you need to learn all of them. Start learning, start applying to jobs, and let me know in the comments down below what was your experience after doing that. Thank you very much. And no offense, Harry, I'm a big fan of you. I'm a big fan of your channel, but I just had to give my opinion to my folks out there who are new and just out of college or are thinking about getting into web dev. Thank you all, everyone. And don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button before you exit your browser. And until next time. Bye.